Alright, tonight we're going to do the meatballs with the Blackberry Chipotle Sauce from the Pod and Bean collection. And we're also from the Pod and Bean, we're going to use some of the Everyday blend. Alright, I've got 2 pounds of ground meat. You can use whatever kind of meat you want. We recently made them with ground venison and they were phenomenal. So if you have access to ground venison, tonight we're going to use a pound of ground buffalo, ground bison, and a pound of ground beef. I like to mix the two of these together just for the flavor so that the bison doesn't overpower it. So 2 pounds of the ground meat, we're going to get that to a second. I've got about a cup of chopped onion because we're using 2 pounds of meat. I'm going to use about a cup of chopped up onion. I've got half a cup of chopped green pepper, about half a cup of the chopped celery. And just a tip, when you're doing celery, use the leaves as well. There's lots of vitamins still in the leaves, so there's no reason to cut those off and throw them away. They're great to throw in soup, or like we're going to do tonight, we're just going to saute them. So chop up the stalk as well as the leaves. And I've got about 4 cloves of minced. I used my little handy dandy Pampered Chef mincer, and I've got 4 cloves of garlic that's minced. We're going to then mix in, I'm going to put these on to saute, then we're going to mix in, I like to sneak some veggies in, especially if you have family members who might not be fans of veggies. Plus, it adds a lot of moisture, the nutrients, and adds moisture to the meatballs. So I've got 1 small zucchini, which grated up, made it about a cup. And I did 2 medium to small carrots. So we've got about a half a cup of the carrots. And as I said, this is going to add moisture in to the meat. I've got 2 eggs that I've just slightly kind of beaten up here. And in my measuring cup over here, what's going to go into the mixture is about 3 big spoonfuls, about like that, 3 or 4 of the Blackberry Chipotle. And then I diluted it down a little bit with some Worcestershire sauce just to make it go a little bit further, and it also adds a really, really nice flavor to the meatballs. And I'm using gluten-free. These are Italian seasoned breadcrumbs. I just use Ian's brand. These are not the Italian seasoned ones, but I usually get just the regular gluten-free breadcrumbs. I like the Italian seasoning because it's going to add, again, a little bit extra herbs to the meatballs. And I've got 2 cups here, but we may not use all 2 cups. And I've also got a little bit of unsweetened almond milk here. You can use regular milk if you want. We drink almond milk or coconut milk or oat milk. So I've got my almond milk out here just in case it looks like, as I'm mixing these up, that I leave just a little bit more liquid or a little bit more moisture. I may add a tablespoon or 2 of that to the meatballs. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to heat my skillet with a couple of tablespoons of olive oil, and then we're going to start sauteing all of our vegetables. Okay, so I sauteed up the veggies, and at the very end I added in the carrots just to get them a little bit softened. And it took under a medium-high heat. I would say 5 to 8 minutes should be fine on that. So while those kind of cool just a little bit, we're going to go ahead and season our meatloaf. Although I did when I was cooking, you've heard me mention before to layer your meal or the item that you're making, layer it with your flavors as you're cooking. So I did season with some salt. I seasoned with a little bit of the Everyday blend. And as my friend and chef Gaspar Stantic taught me, and you've heard me mention Gaspar before, that you can over season from the standpoint of salt, but you really can't over season if you're using herbs. So we're gonna use a little bit of salt in the meat as well. And I'm gonna add that now because I'm gonna put, you can see what I'm doing here, kind of 2 handfuls, because we do have 2 pounds of meat. I also want to add a little bit of the everyday blend. And I'm gonna do about a heaping tablespoon and just a tad extra of that. And tell you what, I want to share the ingredients that are in the everyday blend with you. It is actually cocoa nibs, and the cocoa in these products actually helps add flavor without adding extra salt, extra sugar, and extra fat, and you get the flavonoids from the cocoa, which are very healthy. So we've got the cocoa nibs. It has pink Himalayan sea salt, so that's why I was a little careful on the salt, because it has a little salt in it. It has onion, it has garlic, black pepper, white pepper, mustard seed, coriander, and parsley, thyme, red pepper, pink pepper, and green pepper. So we got plenty of pepper in here. I'm not going to add any more pepper to it, but there's the everyday blend. I'm also going to add, I'm using either an herb de Provence, which is just a mixture of herbs, of thyme and lavender and tarragon and oregano. I'm going to add a little handful of the dried herb de Provence. You can use Italian seasoning if you would like. It doesn't really matter, whatever you happen to have. And I'm going to, at this point, I think, use my hands. Those are about the best tools we've got for mixing. And I'm just going to kind of gently roll it around and just trying to get all of my seasonings mixed in. You don't want to handle it too much. Anytime you're using like a ground meat, a ground beef, ground turkey, ground lamb, the bison, you don't want to mix too much because the meat will get tough if you mess with it for too long. Okay, so I have those mixed up, and I'm gonna make kind of a big hole in the center of this, and I'm going to add in the zucchini. Remember I said sneak vegetables in, and that also is going to add some really good moisture into the meatloaf. So I'm just going to try to work it in just a little bit. And then we're going to add our sauteed vegetables. Again, I'm going to make kind of a little well here. And we're going to add these in. Lots of vegetables, right? You may be going, oh my goodness, that's more vegetables than meat. I'm going to use my little spoon here just to kind of get it going because my vegetables are still just a little bit warm. In fact, I think to kind of cool that down a little, I'm going to go ahead and add my Worcestershire and my Blackberry Chipotle. The Worcestershire was maybe a tablespoon or so. And I only do that, again, to add a little bit of flavor, but also to dilute it down because the product is very, very thick. And you kind of want to dilute it down. It makes it last longer, but it will give you just a little bit of extra flavor. Okay, so let's see here. Let's get our hands back in here. Might as well, right? I wish you could smell this. I know I think I say that every time, but it just smells, and it's not even cooked yet. And it just smells wonderful. Kind of try to get to spread around again. Get it everywhere. All right, and it's already just getting super moist. But we're gonna make it a little more moist because we don't want it to dry out when it's cooked. And if you have leftovers, you don't want them drying out when it's reheated. So we're gonna go ahead and add our egg in. And we're gonna mix that around. And then we're gonna add some breadcrumb. which will help as a binding. The egg and the breadcrumb kind of help as a binder. The breadcrumb acts again, has a little bit of help as a filler. Can you see all these wonderful vegetables in here? Uh-oh. Kind of got out of the pool there. All right, I'm going to wipe my hands off because I may not use all of those breadcrumbs. I kind of want to measure them out. I'll rinse real quick. And we're going to grab measuring cup. This is 1/3 of a cup. It doesn't really matter what you use, but I'm just going to start trying to add some of these in. 2/3. So let's stir in the 2/3 first and see how we're doing here before we put any more in. With 1 pound of meat, a lot of times I'm only using, I got my little trusty dusty helper here. He's my producer, my cameraman.
Taster.
My dishwasher, helps me clean it all up. For a pound of meat, I usually use about 3/4 of a cup. So let's go ahead and add another 1/3 in here. So that's going to be about a cup. So we're probably going to end up with, okay, let's put another 1/3. I think we're going to probably use another 2/3, and then it looks like it's, yeah, now that's good. It's all starting to kind of come together. And like I said, I'm adding the breadcrumbs. It's going to be kind of a filler, a binder with the egg. So it's going to hold our meatballs together. And we're going to be baking these meatballs instead of frying them. If you want, you can always fry them, but we're going to bake them up. Okay, I think I mixed really well there. Clean off my hands and get my baking sheet. Move some of this out of my way. All right, grabbing my baking sheet. I like to wrap my baking sheets with either parchment paper or foil. Easy, easy cleanup. And I've sprayed it with a little cooking spray just to help them not stick too much. Now I'm going to do, I don't know, that maybe like an inch, 1.5 scoop. You can make whatever size you want. I'm going to go a little bit, I think, smaller tonight. So just, I don't know, is that maybe just under, maybe a ping pong ball size? So just under a golf ball. So it's kind of one big scoop. And it's okay if you need to poke your vegetables down in there. Okay, so you can kind of see what I'm doing here. Just a big heaping scoop. Form them into balls. It's not like baking cookies, so they're not going to spread much. So I'm going to fill my tray up, and then I'll put them in the oven. All right, well, we've cooked them at 350 degrees for about 15 minutes. Pulled them out, and I'm just kind of rolling them around in the glaze and putting them back on the tray. We'll put them back in the oven for another 15 minutes, and then they'll be done. And with 2 pounds, you can see I've gotten 2 trays of meatballs. The recipe that will be posted for this is only using 1 pound of meat. And generally, that's probably plenty. I just wanted to have enough left over that I could put some in the freezer, and then we would have them for a meal later. I really like if I'm fixing something up, I might as well fix up enough of it that we can get several meals out of it, or I can cook it all up and we can have some in the freezer. So hope you enjoy this. Gluten-free, dairy-free. Obviously they're not meat-free, but dairy-free and gluten-free, very quick and easy. Star of the show is the Blackberry Chipotle Sauce. I hope you'll get it and try it, and then let me know once you do. But we're gonna put these back in 15 minutes, and then we'll be ready to eat. Thank you, and bon appetito.